Hello, and welcome to another episode of Environmental with Dandelion. This is our podcast where we deep dive into the intersection of business and sustainability. We are your hosts and founders of Dandelion Branding, Court and Ob. And today we are talking with Avishai Greenstein, who is not only the founder of Bamboozle Home, but also the creator of Astrik, which is an awesome new material that is the first ever biodegradable plastic made with repurposed bamboo. So we wanted to learn all about it. Very, very exciting. Can you tell us a bit about your development process of this biodegradable plastic and more about it?
Yeah, so actually we started, almost a decade ago with a different material that was meant for more harm reduction, which we were just trying to replace as much plastic as possible with bamboo. The bamboo that we use is basically post-industrial waste. So you take all the ugly pieces from floor making, things that you don't want, like bad knots and stuff. Those things were always ground down and then burnt. Instead, we take them and we add them as an adjunct material. So we started off by saying how much can we reduce in like a normal melamine plate, for example, there's a certain percentage is sawdust. And we were just seeing how much we can push it less and less melamine. We knew that that was a harm reduction thing and it was going to end at some point. So at the same time, we were trying to develop the next generation, what's possible. And that's when Astrik came in. Astrik has a whole bunch of advantages, both industrially and sustainably, but it was a lot of trial and error, to be honest. We knew we knew the goal, we knew what kind of machines we wanted to use, but things are very temperamental. The materials we're using are temperamental, so it takes some time to basically try it, fail, over and over and over again until you get something that makes sense, that works.
And yeah, one thing that, we know that there have been a lot of different versions out there, I guess, that there are a lot of options for biodegradable plastic, but it's tough, right?
Yes.
I think a lot of companies take a lot of heat because there isn't always the infrastructure to break those things down. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
So biodegradability is a very complicated subject. It's a biological subject, which means that a lot of factors have to go in to make it perfect.
Yeah.
And we by no means stand by and say that we're the silver bullet and where the road ends, essentially, on biodegradability. There's a lot of factors to it, both in material and then how the material is disposed of afterwards. Our initial hope is to make something that is possible to biodegrade and then build the facility around it. Kind of the same way with move to electric vehicles, with the hopes that we can make the grid more sustainable as things move forward. The material itself is biodegradable under the particular conditions. And now that the material is out there with the hopes that people will be able to use it for decades, we are building the capability to essentially take the material back to us and do it. This makes, by having the material composition done by us, it actually makes the job easier because we know exactly what we're getting. It's very complicated for an industrial plant to take the things in because they may be getting 100 different variants of material. Each one of them has their own weirdness, their own things that it wants. And you're trying to making kind of a lowest common denominator approach to it, while we can design something that's very, very specific. So while the process that we have exists already, we are refining it so it's perfect.
That makes sense. That's exciting.
Yeah. So you wouldn't be able to I'm just thinking on a broader scale for folks, you want it to build products that last for a really long time. Plastic lasts for a long time. But if somebody did want to get rid of it, they wouldn't be able to put it into a typical recycling bin.
Yeah, so it can be recycled, and there are facilities that can break it down and do the proper organic biodegrading process. The question is whether or not you live in a place where that particular facility exists. And whenever you're trying to make a product that's, with worldwide distribution, you're always going to run into that caveat of who exists to receive the product on the other end. Because we hope, part of the core design philosophy of the product is that it lasts a long time. We're not here to make things that you only use for a year or two. We want it to last as long as a traditional plastic would in the home. And then when it goes into the particular conditions, it breaks down. That is to say, it is still better, even if it gets sent to the landfill, it is still better than traditional plastics. It will still break down faster than a traditional plastic would. Everything has a caveat with sustainability, unfortunately. And there's landfills that are anaerobic, so nothing breaks down. Like literally nothing breaks down in an anaerobic one. So there's always the caveats that you have to add to absolutely everything that you say when you're talking about sustainability. And our idea here is we'll always be very forward about what is possible and what is not possible, and push for solutions that the consumer the power to make that change.
Yeah. As you say, like, it will break down faster than plastic and safer than plastic, right?
Absolutely,
So,
yes.
but how long does it take for biodegradable plastic to decompose or break
So
down?
there's a lot of factors that are involved in that. So for example, what we want to do, just to give you kind of like the absolute perfect example and then go all
Yes.
the way to the least perfect example. In the perfect example, we will take the product back, we will grind it down, and we will put it into a machine that essentially electronic composter. What is essentially an electronic composter?
Okay.
And we're working to make sure that the source of power is renewable, so we're not kind of shooting ourselves in the foot while trying
Yeah.
to do the right thing. So in that process, if we grind it down and put it in that machine, that process only takes 48 hours
Wow.
by our testing. Now, all the way on the other end is somebody drops it in a forest.
Hmm.
And in that, while the forest will consume it, just like if you put like a chair in a forest, like a wooden chair in a forest, eventually it will start coming to pieces. That will take decades, not 1,000 years, or so, but it will take a few decades to completely and utterly break down to the point where you could not find any pieces of it. Now, because we're doing one of the factors, like while the materials themselves would break down faster, we are doing durable goods, which means that the walls are thicker. It just takes more time, and just like the bacteria is chomping through it, it takes longer for that process to occur because there's just more of the material for it to
Yeah.
eat. So you'll be able to find chunks of it over time, and little by little it disappears into nothing. Of course, at some point, and this is always an important point to talk about, at some point you would technically create microplastics, which are just tiny plastics. The good thing about our material, and specifically the main ingredient in our material, which is PLA, which is everybody's familiar with it in one way or another. Most of the biodegradable disposable products are made from it, is that it is actually biocompatible with humans. It's not something that the body kind of like stores and wonders, what am I supposed to do with this thing over long periods of time, and you just end up accumulating it, which is the problem with bioplastics. This is
Yeah.
something that actually the body metabolizes because it is basically made from sugars.
That's cool.
I hadn't heard of that, I don't think.
Yeah, I have gotten so deep into these things. I've never thought that I
Oh,
would have to go this deep into these things. But every time a question like this gets asked, it's just a huge challenge. And you have to
yeah.
ask yourself, am I really doing the right thing? How
It's
much better am I
awesome.
being? Yeah,
That's awesome
thank
that
you.
you're asking that question. Not enough people ask that question. And then you get to a world like we have, you look around, there's so much shit here. Like, what do we do with these things?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to just comment on that for a second, the thing that I most see in every day in sustainability is we're searching for like the perfect answer. And that's going
Yeah.
to get there, we're going to have to take a lot of steps to get there. And along those steps are a lot of imperfect answers. So we have to go with the best thing we can. We cannot continue to just pretend to wait for, some, messiah scientists to just come up with the perfect answer. Because frankly, if we don't build this awareness around
Yep.
these types of products while giving people what they want, which is usable product that they love and can use every day, we're never going to get there. So that's our goal, really, to be
Yeah.
to be part of that, to be the journey, to build the road, if you will.
Snaps snaps for that. That's awesome. So you said you've gone really deep into this because you get asked questions, then you go, what do you think is like the number one thing that you want people to know about Bamboozle or about biodegradable plastic in general?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is that, as I just said, there's not a perfect solution yet, but supporting those who are looking to make a perfect solution is really the most important thing. And of course, everybody needs to do their research and really go deep. Look, the thing is that trust is created just so we can kind of assign some of our mental power away from ourselves. We don't have to if not every person has the time to become an expert in every one of these little things. You need to find somebody that you trust enough that you say, okay, that person obviously has the right intentions, and is moving towards the right thing. The easiest way to find that out is to see if that person is doing things that are right, even if they aren't immediately profitable, because this is a long process and it's going to take years to get to where we want to be. We are talking about Astrik mainly, but we are already in the development of the next material in the hopes that that one is even a better candidate to completely replace at least plastics in housewares.
Nice.
And we're just, it's about engaging with the brands and giving them the attention they deserve if you feel that they deserve it. They have to earn it from you, really.
Yeah, indeed. Now, before I ask our favorite question in the show, because it's about that time, I just want to take a second and remind you out there in the audience to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any inspiring sustainability story that we have. We're here twice a month. Now, Avi, what would you say your role is? You kind of already covered it, but really just in your elevator pitch, the role you're playing in the sustainable future.
So we hope to do two things, and that kind of goes into basically our core philosophy. Our hope is to, one, create at least a suite of materials for the future and bring them into households. The reason why we pick home, even though it's both a very emotionally charged topic, we touch these things every day, we use them every day. At the same time, somehow it's not sexy because it's not, a piece of electronics, I guess. And the home is where we make core memories. It's where we create trust, long-term trust in brands, long-term trust in materials. Our material culture starts from the very simple things that we handle every day. So I say, we make high-tech materials and then create the lowest tech product possible, which is like a bowl, like the most ancient thing that you could make with the newest material that you can put it together with. Our hope in general is that by being out there, you can start raising a consumer that is aware that this is possible. Because I think a lot of people just don't think it's possible. And then raise a new generation of children that will kind of see that it's possible and make it part of their lives. I look at a legacy plastic, like melamine, which is a terrible material. I'm not going to throw too much shade on it, but it deserves a lot of shade. It's been around for 100 years, and the industry is going to double between now and 2030 in dollars sold. How is that possible? And I believe it's possible because we grew up on it. We have already 3 generations that just grew up on it. They trust it. They know it's going to work. It does exactly what it's meant to do. So you eat off of it at a restaurant, you eat off of it at home, you are just used to it. You know exactly what you're going to get every single time. There's no criticism to be levied because I don't do this with this material, I do that. That's because it's 3 generations in. We are basically starting off completely from scratch. We're, just 10 years old. In reality, we want to build that trust around Astrik and future materials. So we're looking at this as a very, very long-term project. And sustainability, I think that's our role. It's really to change plastic, but also at the same time, change the attitude towards what's possible.
I like that. I take the most high-tech material and make the simplest thing possible with it. Because you're right, it helps normalize choosing a sustainable material from day one.
You mentioned sort of that there's, I guess, some kind of pushback, I guess, or misunderstandings around bioplastic, because it's likely because we're just so used to traditional plastics. I guess from your perspective, what is the biggest misconception around biodegradable materials?
So I have the pleasure of having conversations like these with people who are sustainably minded. But in reality, most of the conversations I have are with people that have no direct care is wrong to say. It's just that they don't, that's not top of mind.
Yeah.
Top of
Yeah.
mind is does it work? Is it beautiful? Do I want it? Like, this is what our mistake early on was, to lean too much actually on sustainability and not enough on, the actual product. Like, do I want this in my house or not? Because I would say the majority of the planet just wants a solution that's just going to work. And if they'll do sustainability, if they feel like that's something that works for them, which is really, we always try to balance. It's sustainability without sacrifice. You're balancing lifestyle and sustainability. You're trying to find that happy medium where people are actually going to use it. Because if they don't use it, then there's no point in it existing, really. So in most of my conversations around biodegradability, I'm getting the opposite pushback of, like, it's going to be too good at it, which is, how is it
For a
going to stay in
wool?
my house? Am I
Yeah,
going to
that
put
makes
it in?
sense.
I'm going to put it in a dishwasher, and is it going to disappear after a few uses?
Yeah.
And my usual response to it is, we have a lot of biodegradable items in our house that we can use for hundreds of years. It's just that they're not exposed to the rigors of nature. So you can have, an antique chair that's existed for, hundreds of years, but you put it in a forest for a little bit of time, and it's starts coming apart. So that's usually how I solve that problem, around on that fear that it's going to have an issue. On the opposite end of the spectrum, there's a lot of criticism of biodegradable plastics, and I'm a pragmatic person, so I tend to say yes, true. Like, I just yes and the criticism. There are criticisms. There are issues with it. With single-use plastics, there's a lot of issues with us relying too much on them, thinking that it's okay to just chuck it. It'll disappear. Just chuck it into the ocean. That's fine. Obviously, we can't do any of those things. So it's one of those, in general, sustainability, biodegradability, it's one of those things that is so complex, and nobody has figured out the way to package it up. Because every time we package it up, it either changes and morphs because something new came out, or some new research came out about how it affects the environment, or it's so complex that you can't package it up at all. That's been our kind of like our core marketing challenge around sustainability for a decade at this point. It's very difficult to pin down, and then you don't see as much response for it, which is the most frustrating part. It's like, you want to get a really tight story around sustainability, and some people will respond really well to that, and other people will just say, but what color does it come in? And that's a fair question. That's an easier marketing question, frankly, to answer than the sustainability one.
Yeah. Yeah, that is what we do, is and we deal with this challenge every day with our clients. Is we're a marketing agency for sustainability, and we have to answer those questions. And we're living in history, as you say. Like, on the one hand, it changes all the time, and that's tough when you have a campaign and you have your storytelling, and then, okay, new data says that actually I can't use that anymore. Or, like, you can't actually use the word sustainability in ad, like, anymore. It's political now. So
Oh yeah,
that doesn't work.
I've had ads taken down before for being political. I was like, what is going on here?
Oh yeah, you use the word sustainable, and that's too politically charged. You're banned. You're in jail. Men in jail. So it changes a lot, and it's really refreshing to hear you just be super forward. Yep, we have to talk about our sustainability, we have to tell our story, and we have to do traditional marketing. Like, it's never just marketing your sustainability, right? It's always going to be, I have this incredible product that you should buy, and also it hurts the planet less. Like, I don't know if we'll ever get to a place where consumers with consumer goods actually choose sustainability first on a huge grand scale. I have big hope for it, but
I think that there's two things that I'd say about that. One, people who are very interested in sustainability, like deeply interested in sustainability, can fall into a bit of a spiral which is,
Yeah.
inherently, I don't want to sound like too negative here, but inherently like consuming is unsustainable. That's like the
Yes.
inherent thought
Yes.
around it, which has led us down a pretty dark path in general, which
Yeah.
I don't love. I'm an optimist. So you start going into like, okay, austerity, like I need to do less, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make you a very happy person, and that tends to reflect afterwards. Or it goes into maybe a craftier direction where I have to make my own stuff and things like that, and then you realize, well, I'm spending a lot of energy making my own stuff, and that's not efficient. Like, maybe is a machine more efficient than me? This is starting to get to a very complicated thing, and people fall down
Yeah.
this spiral of like, I don't know what to do. And we've seen this process through over the
Yeah.
last probably decade and a half, and the end of that process comes out a nihilist, which is a problem.
Yep.
Um,
And then they're back to buying regular plastic shit because they
exactly, and
don't
then just
care
like,
anyway.
it's
Like
too much
there
for
would
me.
just
Like, it doesn't
yep.
matter. Like, I'm just good
Yep.
to go.
Yep.
The cure, in my opinion, and this is maybe my cope, but the cure is some people have to care. Not everybody, but some people have to care. Some people
Yep.
have to just do this because that's what lets them sleep at night. I consider myself one of those people. And I'm doing this because it needs to be done kind of situation.
Yeah.
And I think the rewards will be there eventually, because forget about like saving the planet for a second. I know I shouldn't say that kind of thing on this podcast, but let's say forget about that for a second. There are materials that we use that there will be no more of them at some point. Like,
Yeah.
sustainability is not just an emotional thing. It's like an actual physical
No.
problem that
It
will,
is
we have finite resources to work
yes.
with.
Yes.
So eventually we'll run out, and we'll run out of oil at some point, or it'll be
Yeah.
so expensive that it will be ineffective to be used. That's most likely what's going to happen sooner than later. And we'll just be here, just waving, saying, "Hi, we're here." Like, we've come up
Yeah.
with this already. Like, we've replaced this already. As
Yeah.
long as we can make it there, and do as much research and and push
Yeah.
as far forward as possible by the time we get there, I believe the rewards will be there for those who care about the future, because the
Yeah.
future is coming whether we like it or not.
Yeah. I agree.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great platform. It just generally helps us avoid a Mad Max situation where we're all just fighting over
Yeah.
gas and milk.
Yeah, or just like a Wall-E situation. I think Wall-E
Yeah.
is like, Mad Max is scary and violent, but Wall-E is like really like a big disappointment kind of situation.
Yeah. Yeah. We're looking at a nasty future and people like you are out there building stuff to like sort of make it a little bit this transition easier, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing to help take those steps in the world.
Making it easier is probably our top
I
priority.
think
The way I see it, you can create a product that is hyper sustainable. Let's say comes out of a very well managed forest, fair trade, artisan craft. Like, everything is absolutely aces about it. And you bring it into the house. You have this beautiful, let's say it's a big salad bowl. I like this example. And you use it, and then you realize that I'm going to have to clean it by hand, and then I'm going to have to polish it every so often,
Mhm.
apply some oils every so often. So you have this beautiful thing, you put it in your cupboard. I'll bring it out in holidays. There's a problem with that. Why did we cut that tree down in the first place? If we're only going to use it once a year, one person once a year, like, that is a problem. So I need to make it easier in that I want you to abuse the product. I want you to use it every single day until you cannot use it anymore. That is the way that I say, okay, if let's say I make X amount of carbon and divide that by the million times that you've used it. I'm not saying that our product lasts a million times. I have not tested that. But if it's divided by all the times that you use it, that is time. That allows people to
Yeah.
engage with the product, and both covers the sustainability goal as well as making it easy for people to just be themselves, have the same lifestyle they've always had. I think about the transition between leaded gasoline and gasoline. Most people didn't care, didn't know. It said it on the pump. It didn't really matter. They're just still using the same stuff. But it helped so significantly with health that, thank God, somebody went out and did it. But they didn't do it because of necessarily like huge, pressures from the average consumer to say, I will not buy leaded gasoline. No, they just did it because it had to be done. I'm sure there's a lot more to that story in the backdrop, but the way we see it is that if we replace plastic, nobody's going to clap, because nobody will. Nobody would have. It would have happened. It would just happened, and people were like, "Okay, great, cool."
Beautiful. I'm glad you're an optimist, because you just made it sound like a really thankless job, but I'm really thankful that you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if it's thankless. It's just tough, but I think optimism it has to be tested, right? So now I know that I'm a real one.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I think that's really lovely. A really great place to sort of ask our final question for you, which is, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? What do you want them to know about connecting with you and about Bamboozle?
Of course, yeah, you can come to our website, bamboozlehome.com. You can find our products there. You can chat with us on there, ask any questions you may want to. We're all very excited to answer and chat about our product. You can also find us at Bamboozle Housewares on Instagram if you want to see some pretty pictures. And that's basically it.
Fantastic. And we will definitely link all of that down in the show notes as well. So scroll on down and click it. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Avi.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah. See you next time.